Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm Milan. I work on product and marketing at allGood, but that's not really what today's about. I'm here joined with Adam Schoenfeld, who is the CEO and co-founder of Siftrock, a company a lot of people in marketing ops use without realizing how far ahead of its time it was. Before Drift acquired in 2018, Siftrock basically created a category, reply management, that most marketers didn't even know was a problem yet. Adam's already done a great interview with Churn FM covering the Startup 101 stuff. So I wanted to go somewhere more specific today with the direction of how do you build a company around a problem before the market agrees that the problem exists? Adam, thanks for doing this.
Glad to be here.
Okay, just to get started, I want to go back to the beginning. So take me back to 2014. What did Chris, your co-founder, see that everyone else was missing? And at that time, did you actually think this is a company? Or was it more like, oh, this is a problem that happened to be worth solving?
Yeah, well, Chris actually was talking to a mutual friend of ours, actually a guy that I worked with at Simply Measured at the time named Uri Bar Joseph, who was running marketing there. And Chris was just chatting with Uri, and one day Uri started telling him about this problem he had where they get all these replies to these marketing emails. And at Simply Measured, we had about 100,000 free users on our email list. And then we had a pretty good content brand. So we had a pretty large email list that we sent to. I would say maybe a couple hundred, 300,000 recipients. And it was growing rapidly. And it was a big channel for us at that time. And so every send, he'd just get more and more of these replies piling up in some Gmail. And Uri, one day went and looked in the inbox and was just like, there's really important stuff happening in here. And so he tasked somebody on his marketing ops team to basically, once a week, comb through that and figure out what to do with all the things. Really important stuff could have meant a person, a high value potential customer was just replying to the email, which, sales should probably go do something with that. They sometimes wanted to engage in a sales process, something like that. There was all this data hygiene stuff that kind of would tell you about because the people who had left the company or the email was bouncing, people were out of office. So maybe you should pause sending to them. So there's all this data hygiene stuff. And he was telling Chris about this, and Chris was like, well, I should probably, see if that's a problem that other people have. And then if it is, I bet I could build a little business to solve it. And that was the whole genesis of how he came up with the idea.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love when it's a problem that just you run into and you're like, gosh, I'm sure everyone is running into this. We can totally expand upon that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And I mean, it was kind of odd because the first thing you'd think there is, well, doesn't Marketo or HubSpot or Eloqua, the marketing platforms that everybody was using, Active Campaign, don't they handle this problem? And, what he found was that no, they don't. And there's some just historical reason of how they set up DNS and email sending that they just didn't light up the other side of it, which is receiving the emails. The whole infrastructure is about sending, and they didn't really think about, the receiving part. And so they just never filled the feature. I bet all of them had it somewhere in Jira, but they just had never gotten to it, and it never became a problem that they were willing to solve.
Yeah, no, totally. It feels like the obvious next step, but clearly it wasn't that obvious. Cool. So as I was doing, some research on you guys, I was going through your LinkedIn and I saw a post that I thought was super cool, which is your announcement of hitting 100 customers. But I think the coolest thing about that post was just the amount of customers, just customer engagement you had celebrating it with you. That is just awesome. As a product manager, that's what I dream for, that type of hurrah from your customers. And I was wondering if that was unexpected to you, if that was something that you really cultivated. Anything you can share there?
Yeah, that's my favorite campaign I've actually ever run, was that 100 customer announcement. We did a lot to sort of figure out what everybody's customer number was, and then we told them, hey, this is your customer number. Just wanted to let you know we hit 100, and we're going to be talking about that next week, and we'd love it if maybe you'd share something when we do that. And it just felt like that was a reflection of kind of all the hard work we'd done. Because I think we had a vibe that was much more like a neighborhood coffee shop than a software vendor. We were bootstrapped. We were a really, really small team, like 4 people. And we were very hands-on. We were just very kind of in it with those early customers. And so I think when, we asked them to kind of comment on that, I think it was just like a reflection of, that we're doing good work for them and that we're solving something that they wanted solved.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know how hard it is to honestly even get customers that, like using your product to engage. So it's super impressive, super impressive.
Yeah. So we crafted this campaign around it, but we hadn't asked people for much. We just I don't like to ask the customers for too much. And then, it was really nice the way people responded to that. I actually occasionally somebody will pop on LinkedIn, like somebody did the other day. It was like, RIP Siftrock or remember Siftrock. Just a couple months ago, and a few people commented, and I was like, "Oh, those were some of the great people that we worked with." Then it's a really great community, and the folks working in marketing ops in these companies. I think some really, really high quality people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking to a lot of now Drift customers, and I guess ultimately SalesLoft customers. But yeah, a lot of them still call it Siftrock and are still big time supporters.
That's great. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, I want to dive a little bit into the idea of selling a category that doesn't exist. I think the hardest thing about creating a new category isn't necessarily building the product, but it's really convincing someone that they actually have a problem worth solving. So I'm curious, how did you sell Siftrock to people who weren't actively looking for a reply management software?
Yeah, I think category creation is really hard if you're trying to create a big, massive, VC scale category. I think, we were very tactical in the whole thing. It was just do you have the problem? And a lot of people said yes. And then we were like, well, here is exactly the solution that we have to that problem. There's not really anything else that solves it. And we're going to do a good job of helping you, set it up. And then from there, it's going to be you won't have to do it much. And so I think we just had a pretty good tactical, practical proposition. And so we just, took that out and got that in front of the people that we thought would have the problem, which was associated with just a few of the marketing automation platforms. And that was the whole playbook. It was really simple. It was just blocking and tackling the whole thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a pretty universal problem, right? Anyone who's sent out blast emails like that has run into it. That's awesome.
Well, we found that it really did come down to that of ICP because if you used one of these 3 platforms, you sent over 100,000 emails a month. And I can't remember what our other parameter was. Your B2B. That would also be if you check those 3 boxes, it was then you probably have somebody who looks at this inbox, or you're probably motivated to have that be solved. Mm-hmm. And, for a low price. It wasn't that expensive either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have to say, looking back, do you think that the reply management category existed before you named it? Were there any kind of in-house solutions you ran into? I'm curious. Or would you say you fully kind of named it and created it?
I don't know that we really named it and created it. Is there even a G2 grid for it? So the category doesn't really exist, but we established a customer base solving that problem. I don't know that it really it didn't elevate to a category because there weren't multiple players. Yeah. So, I think it didn't really reach that kind of status, nor was that our ambition because we were bootstrapped. So yeah, I think there was some others that did it as a feature, one of the platforms, I can't remember which one, not Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, or HubSpot, because those are the ones we served, but one of the other platforms, I can't remember which one, had this as a feature. And then there was people that had built stuff or little bits and pieces of it out there, but there weren't really there weren't startups really doing it. There was this one other company, Lead Gnome, that was started around the same time as us, but they were positioned it purely around the extracting of the out of office replies as a sales data thing, which I just never thought that was the optimal use case.
Right.
I thought that was this secondary thing that maybe some people would care about, but I thought the more important thing was that you can route the humans that reply. And then the second most important was that you could like cleanse the data that needed to be. So I think we just like oriented on different use cases, but they were around the same time as us.
Okay, got it. Did that happen to be the other company? Was it Exact Target?
It could have been, yeah. Did you look that up? Is that true?
Yeah, I was trying to do some research, figure out who your guys' competitors were at the time, and the only thing I found was that Exact Target offered something that sounded a little bit like reply management, but
that sounds right. But they only held, of all of the marketing automation, I don't know what their market share would have been, like 10% or something. It's pretty fragmented.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in B2B, like Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, HubSpot have aggregated enough of those customers that TAM was plenty for us to serve our ambitions,
Yeah, 100%. Cool. All right. Now, walk me through a little bit about the acquisition story. I'm very curious, like who called who, how long did that take? Were you guys looking to get acquired? And then when Drift, that conversation got started, what did they really like understand about Siftrock that made you think, these are the right people?
Oh man, I haven't talked about this one in a while. It's not recent memories. Let me think here. So David Cancel, the CEO at Drift, is somebody I very much admired from afar. At first, I'd say that's probably how it started. So I was following him and Drift from the very, very beginning, and I thought he was an absolute product marketing, packaging, positioning genius. And so I was very drawn to the company. We used Drift very early at Siftrock, and we really liked the early version of the product. It was very useful for us as the web chat and the booking, and they nailed that first marketing and sales chatbot with, I think, a few things that they just packaged together really, really well. And so I admired like the product. There was a lot of things I thought were good. The culture, they were really dominating in social media at that time too, and so they had like a really strong brand. And so I had been just DMing with him over maybe a year or two period. I don't know the exact timeline. And then at some point, I don't know exactly what the conversation was, but we just ended up getting on the phone. And then, he was asking about the ambitions of it and if we'd ever consider merging it with another company. And at some point we came to Boston and just had a whole powwow with them. And they're like, this would make a lot of sense just inside of Drift. And we'd love to have you guys here. And we were like, yeah, you guys are awesome. We'd like that too. And we came up with a deal. And it was really that simple. There wasn't like a long process or something. It was just kind of, I guess what would they call it now? Vibes. But it was just kind of, and it came together, there was much more diligence after that. But I think there was an initial intent where they saw like a small team and product that could kind of plug into their very big vision. And we saw sort of something that would be exciting to be part of.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys really kind of aligned from a vision perspective. So it makes it easy.
That was a fun place in the early days too there. Yeah. Like their Boston office and what was going on there. It was a really cool place to come in and sort of see how they were running it. Elias and David they think a lot bigger than I ever have or will. But it was cool to kind of be inside of that. Yeah.
And then for any viewers that are unaware, Drift recently was acquired by SalesLoft. And SalesLoft is now, unfortunately, end-of-lifing the reply management feature. But I think
was at Drift when it was cool before the security incidents and all the acquisitions and stuff. But, they did some impressive things there in some of those years. It was a really cool company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what's honestly really crazy to me is that the product is going away, but the problem clearly hasn't. All the customers we're talking to are it's a bummer, they want it to keep going, and they use it every day and they love it. So I guess then the question I had for you is as we are kind of getting that metaphorical torch passed to us, what advice would you have for us as we're kind of taking what you built into the AI era?
It's a very clear problem. I think you just think about like the quality being important in terms of like how those things are handled, and make it easy for people to set it up. And I think it's worth the problem we're solving.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I just want to bring it into 2026. Honestly, I think you were very early to something that, most people didn't, understand in 2014. What do you think what do you think today's version of that opportunity is? Like, what's something in GTM right now that, most companies are underestimating?
If I had the perfect answer to this, I would be trying to solve that, wouldn't I?
Of course. It's always worth the question, though.
I do think there's a pretty clear shift underway, and it's happening in sort of a lot of dimensions all at once. So it's hard to sort of distill it down to something really concrete. But I do think there's a lot of change happening in the whole go-to-market scape and the technology that's being built, how the stacks are going to look, the orgs, how they're going to be structured, like what strategies and tactics do work and don't work. I think it's just a time where a lot of assumptions that you've had are probably like worth revisiting. And I don't really know what all the answers are, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity, and there's going to be a lot of new innovation. I do always try to think about the arcs that are happening in the consumer marketing side as an anchor for this, because I think B2B tends to lag that. Mm-hmm. And so if you can see what's happening there, like I look at creators and influencers, and just the shape that's taken in B2C is so massive at this point. And I think B2B is probably starting to figure that one out a little bit. There's obviously like this build versus buy thing. I think that's totally just gotten completely shaken up. Like, I think build was a joke for a lot of years when customers would say it, and you just be like, okay. And really you just come back in 6 months, with the exception of a very, very, very elite group of people that would deploy real engineering resources onto some problems. But now I think like there's a lot of confidence that people think they can build, and a lot of that confidence is warranted because you can definitely build a lot. So I don't know, those are some of the things that I look at, but I think that every week I'm sort of seeing things that are new and changing. And I think you just have to kind of be nimble in this time, and then try the things that you think have potential. And then we'll kind of see what becomes the new alpha in the market going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being nimble is a great point there. Just like adapting to the newest Claude release and going from there. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And now it's like every one of those releases could just be like an earth shattering. It's like now there's a slash command that just wiped out a whole category.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you're like, okay, well, I guess that just happened.
Cool. So this one is just like, I'm curious about this. Also, of course, doesn't have to make the interview in case, you want to be open about this. But I'm curious if you think that there are, any founders that are currently chasing like the wrong problem in kind of a similar vein.
Oh man. Yeah. I think that in the GTM space, there's a set of companies that are completely stuck in the middle, and they need to navigate their way out of it, in my opinion, or else I'm not sure like if they have an existence. And I see that the middle being, there's two ends. You are just infrastructure, like your primitives, you're callable, the agents can use you, and you're an enabling technology that people building agents must have and absolutely need. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like you're delivering an agent that gets to an outcome. Right. And it's a true agent, and it's more akin to an employee than it is to a SaaS dashboard. And I think if you're trying to be in this like mushy middle where you're kind of like agents and you kind of have some MCPs and then you've got a lot of SaaS and and then ultimately it's just like a person's clicking around in there just like they were before. Mm-hmm. And it's like the same workflow and it's the same like support ticket problems and the same sales motion. And it just looks like what we've been selling. I think you're not going to have a great time. So I would just try to like navigate to the edges more quickly, probably, if I was in that situation. I think a lot of people have navigated around and done a really good job. I mean, of course, Intercom's like the most insane example of that, but I do think you can move around pretty freely because you can build so quickly. But I would try to avoid any like over anchoring into a world that basically no longer exists and a way that people don't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think these model providers are kind of taking up more and more of the middle and are just forcing people to kind of take either side there.
Yeah,
And
they can do so much. It's crazy. I can't believe how much they can do now and how much more they can do now than they could 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. It's an absolutely crazy amount of change and possibility there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I mean, that's about it for me on questions, but honestly, I think what's next for you, Adam? Like, what are you working on now? Where should people go to follow along? If they're interested in more kind of thought leadership stuff on the GTM side.
Yeah. Right now I've kind of taken a break from, starting companies in a sense, because I wanted to just do something solo that was a little more lifestyle oriented. I know that's kind of a dirty word, but I'm thinking about that a lot and trying to, find sort of a less grindy mode for myself. And I know that goes against like the 996 and all that stuff, but I think for at least this chapter of my life, whatever that is, the next bit here, I'm sort of doing this solo operator, builder, analyst route. And I've got a newsletter that I run, and I've got a few projects, and that's all at adamgtm.com. So I'm just kind of tinkering and building and writing and seeing where that takes me for a little while.
Exciting. All right. Yeah, I'll have to subscribe to your channel. All right. I mean, thanks for joining, Adam. This was awesome. Love getting the inside scoop here on everything Siftrock and your experience with email reply management. It's been an honor talking to you, and really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good luck with this.
Thanks. Yeah, likewise. All right.